question for Pat. Use the raise hand tool. Russ Smith, you're up first, sir. Just got to take yourself off mute there. There you go.
Yeah, okay. Against Baylor, you only had 18 three-point attempts, I believe. A 2-year low for you. Was that just because other actions were working so well, or are we going to see more of that? Last season, 4 of your 5 fewest threes were taken at the end of the season, 4 of the 5 games.
I mean, I've told you before, Russ, we never talk about shooting threes, ever. Ever. We never go into a game like, we got to get this number of threes up. We define very clearly what we believe to be great, and we're constantly hunting great. Great for us, first and foremost, is foul pressure. You do that by playing on the attack in every facet of our game, transition, half-court set plays. That's the highest percentage shot in the game. Shots at the rim. We're one of the, I want to say we're 7th or 8th in the country in 2-point field goal percentage. One of the reasons that I think we shoot a high percentage from 2 is we take great 2s. And by focusing on those 2 things, on the attack, free throw pressure, rim pressure, that generates threes, which is the next highest percentage shot in the game. When you play downhill with foul pressure, you're going to get to the free throw line, you're going to score at the rim, and if that's what presents itself, we take it. If that's not what presents itself because the defense adjusts and helps and floods to the ball, then we're gonna take a 3. But whether it's the first 3 seconds into the shot clock or the last 3 seconds in the shot clock, we're going to hunt great. So it's just kind of how the game played out. I think you've asked that question a bunch, and I know you think there's some science behind it, but it's play on the attack first and foremost. Get to the paint, tack the rim, get to the free throw line. And then obviously we value the 3-point shot as well.
Okay, thanks, Pat.
Brett Friedlander.
Morning, Pat. Last week on this call, you referred to football practices, and I was kind of wondering, could you go into a little detail as to what that entails? And also,
yeah, just competing like this time of year. Brad just said it, like, everybody's nicked up and banged up because, just the entire season, the enormity of it, the games inside out. And then, sometimes you get away from competing in practice because, you want to make sure your guys get to the jump circle, ready to play because the best ability is availability. But, sometimes when you do that and practice doesn't have a competitive edge to it, then you don't have that competitive edge in practice. It's that constant balance that coaches are trying to do. I'm good friends with Jeff Brown, the football coach at Louisville, and it's kind of the same thing. And I'm sure if you polled every coach in the country, they're always trying to balance what's the right rigor in practice to make sure that your team has that competitive edge, because you better have that. At the highest level of collegiate basketball, I mean, the level of competing and physicality and toughness that you have to win high major Division I basketball games is really high. And, and if practice is, country club and sunscreen and iced tea, then, you're not going to have that edge. But at the same time, you don't want to make practice too physical day in, day out, because, then your guys will get nicked up and banged up in practice. So you have to, Kenny Rogers song, he used to say you have to know when to hold them and when to fold them. But that's that balance that coaches are constantly trying to come up with. And Coach Brom says the same thing. Like, man, on Saturday afternoons, you better be the toughest, most physical team, but you also need your guys there healthy as well. So it is that balance. I think coming out of that the Duke game, I think it was that I thought we got manhandled. I thought we got out-toughed, out-physical. So we just went back to kind of like what we do in the preseason, where it was more live play. It was more competing. And when I say football practice, it's tough competing. 4-minute segments where you're going good against good, 4-on-4, 5-on-5, up and down, where you're not blowing the whistle early before the blockouts occur and the scrums for rebounds occur. You're letting them play. But as a coach, you're just hoping you can come out of that without getting dinged up or stuff like that so that you can get to practice. Now, you can't do it every day, but you have to be able to pick your spots when you have time between games as to when to ramp it up and when not to ramp it up. It's just a balance that all of us coaches go through, and we're all trying to find the right recipe. But we needed a couple days where we really competed and got after it. And I thought, our guys responded well, and we've been going out and competing well. I mean, you look at Coach Sampson. Gosh darn, man! Like that is the the way he coaches and his teams, and I have so much admiration for the nastiness and physicality they play with. We played against Tennessee the last 2 years. When I say playing against Tennessee is absolutely football, that's the understatement of the year, and that is a tip of the cap. To Coach and Coach Barnes and what he does and his culture. But if you're not ready to fight, they are going to beat you by 90. And they almost did that to us when we played them at Tennessee.
As a quick follow-up, how much has the added aggressiveness that those practices have bred contributed to your recent hot streak, and how much of it is getting back to full health?
A lot of probably some of both. And it is that fine line because, like I said, you just can't do it every day, but you got to remind guys that, the physicality on rebounding that at a high level of Division I basketball, you play against the Michigan States, you play against the Tennessees, you play against the Dukes, you play against the SMUs, who we play tomorrow night. Big physical, so you have to have that. So I think it is that balance to be able to keep that tough physical edge and then keep your guys healthy at the same time. And, sometimes when it's like, man, we go 2 weeks and we're really worried about guys being dinged up, then you go out in the game and get your butt kicked. So it is that balancing act.
Thanks a lot, Pat. Good luck this week.
Thank you.
Brooks Holton, go ahead, sir.
Hey, good morning, Pat. You spoke about after the game Saturday, talking about only having so much time left with Javon on your team. And you've heaped praise on him as a leader and just as a person since he's joined your program as one of the first guys to, really, buy into what you're building at Louisville. I'm working on a story about him. I'm heading into this last stretch of the season. I'm just wondering, what it's meant to you to be able to coach him these last 2 seasons and just how much he's meant to the team. You speak very highly of him as a leader, and has he grown in that department this year, just being a second-year guy and kind of, handling all the expectations that this team has?
Yep. Just, Coach Prosser used to quote Ralph Waldo Emerson and say, our chief want in life is someone who can make us do what we can. And, I feel like my relationship with Javon over the last 2 years, and he's had some flaws that he admitted to in terms of, he's very prideful, and just his ability to be a great leader and be a great example is something that I'm very proud of. He's always been a leader since he got here day one in terms of his approach and his professionalism. Nobody I've ever coached is more regimented than Javon. He is going to take care of his body meticulously. He cares about all the little details of sleep. He's in the training room constantly doing recovery things. He's in unbelievable tune with his body. He gets his reps in. He is a voracious film watcher. He's meticulous in scouting report. But the thing I feel like Javon's done is he's always led by example in that way. I could just look to a young player last year like Kenai Roots and say, just watch what he does and follow his lead. And then you can see Kenai Roots just starting to blossom because that's his approach now, because he's been watching a guy like Javon. But the growth that I've seen in Javon is his ability to be more extroverted and to share that knowledge with the guys, to be way more vocal. And then the cross that he bears sometimes is like, is he gets very frustrated and he allows himself now when things go sideways or I coach him to take to that and not, be emotional kind of in his response. But one of the best leaders I've ever been around. He's tough as nails. Is tough and competitive as anybody I've ever coached, and just a world-class kid. And I meant what I said the other day, that I'm sad counting down the days that, and I've said this about a bunch of guys that I coached last year and even this year, that the days are dwindling that I get to be around him every day because of how special he is.
I want to get one last quick one in from CL Brown.
All right, Pat, I'm fishing a little bit here, but I was wondering if there is a difference between when you first started coaching as a head coach at Winthrop and now in terms of how you will handle your rotation. And what I'm getting at is I'm wondering if there's a difference with back in the day. It seems like more your rotation would be set kind of midway through the season. And if you hadn't played a player, in like the last 5 games, that you wouldn't take that player and put him in a situation, if he was a good shooter or a good rebound, like there wouldn't be necessarily a instant that you would bring him off the bench later in the season and put him in a just kind of a situational position. And I wonder if that is more of a thing now where players might not necessarily be in every game, but they still have to be prepared for a situation because coaches are more likely to put them in spot situations now as opposed to back in the day.
I don't know. You'd have to give me some examples. I don't really think my philosophy's changed. The state of readiness that every player on the roster has to have is huge. Every player on the roster has a role. And whether it's, you look at a guy like Zugris for us, and that kid just stays ready. No matter what, his process and practice is elite. He brings it every day, competes his butt off. And he's had games where he's gone in, I call his name, and he runs in there and affects the game with his toughness and his physicality. And then, you look at the last game the other day against Baylor, he barely played. If not, he didn't play. But 25 strong commitment to team is your attitude when you walk in the next team meeting, film session, walkthrough. You got a smile on your face and a pep in your step, and you're ready so that when your name is called, you go in and help us win the game. That's just an example. I don't know if it's changed from back in the day till now, but a team pursuit of excellence is everybody, regardless of your role, and embracing what your role is with a smile on your face. So I don't know like how it's changed from back in the day till now, but I expect everybody on our roster to go in and win the game for us when their name's called.
Appreciate it.
Pat,